Now, I'm going to ask you something. It's not really controversial, but it's it's a little bit of typecasting. But I get the question is like, do you find that there's different generations that are a little bit more entitled than others?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Because I think as humans, we all feel entitled to something. And it's just, we just feel entitled to different things. And that's the interesting part about it when we kind of like split us up into different groups that have different like experiences and different situations and things like that. Is like we have different needs, and those different needs turns into different things that we feel like we should have. And when those things conflict, that becomes a problem.
I like that. And I think the idea of being entitled, um, I think there's an opportunity to revisit even the brand of the word entitled, because I think it's
Mm.
become something that we associate with like it's bad. It's not a good thing to feel entitled, but maybe it's not necessarily the worst thing. Just want to welcome everyone. You're joining Pinaki and me. This is Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work? And we've, over the last couple of years, we've been examining life in the workplace. We have had some interesting chats about just different things that do feel normal in the workplace environment or in the office environment, but like wouldn't really make a lot of sense anywhere else. I'm Chris Lee. I'm part of the employee experience and internal communications team at Gallagher Communication. And of course, I'm joined here as always by my good friend and co-host, Pinaki Kathiari, who leads a team at Local Wisdom Digital Communications Agency based out of New Jersey. And we're going to continue to poke and prod at workplace practices that deserve a little bit closer inspection. And today we're going to be talking a little bit more about this idea of feeling entitled. Right, Pinaki?
That's right. And like it's an interesting thing when he was kind of like thinking about being entitled, right? It's kind of like, first of all, what is entitlement? It's just kind of like believing that you deserve something, a privilege or a treatment that, I feel like I should have this and that should come to me. And so like entitlement to me seems to be something around expectation. Because of X, I expect Y type of thing. It's kind of like a cause and effect. First of all, does that make sense to
Yeah,
you?
for sure. It harkens back to our experience, not that long ago, but it feels like it's a long ago now. But like COVID, and when we
Hmm.
were in lockdown, and we
Yeah, what was
all,
that?
yeah, almost like literally overnight, everybody had to go home and learn how to work from home. And over the next couple of years after COVID broke out, I think people got a lot really comfortable about working from home, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them even moved, into like the deeper heart of the suburbs and not being as close to downtown, with an idea that, I feel like this is going to be the way it's going to be moving forward because I work just as effectively, in fact, even more effectively because I don't have, 2 or 3 hours where I'm fighting a commute and I'm doing all
Hmm.
these things and I'm still able to do things very, very effectively. And I think when organizations started to mandate coming back to work, that sense of entitlement bubble to the surface about, well, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this now for the last 2 years, and I've been doing it really well. I deserve a chance to work from home. And I feel like I'm entitled to make that decision for myself about what environment I work the best in.
That's right. Uh, that's like a kind of that's an example of like a mismatched expectation. It's like, wait a minute, we all had to do this. I'm doing good at it, and why is the expectation to do something differently and change it now, right? And then I think kind of similar to that cause and effect, it would have been fine if like the expectation matched or the result matched the expectation. I think about it like, I don't know, something natural. Like if I'm holding a mic and I drop it, we all have, if I let go of it, we all have that expectation that it'll fall. It would be weird and awkward if it didn't fall or something like that, right? And that's an easy one. But like in that scenario that you described, or in another scenario that we hear a lot about is like an older uh, person from like the a boomer generation or Gen X generation and a younger Gen Z coworker, while like the younger one complains about long hours and coming into the office, while the older one has the expectation that that's just the way it is and it's how it's been, while the younger one is like, I'm not letting work like rule my life. There's expectations and entitlement on both sides here, right? Like I've been through that, and that's just what you need to do to get here. While on the other side, it's like, I just don't think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and I think when I think about entitlement, and I think about it not necessarily being a bad thing. For example, if someone feels like they're entitled to have a little bit more ownership and decision making authority on some of the areas of a business that that their job is an important part of. I sometimes, Pinaki, I just wonder because I think a lot of people coming into careers at early stages, they feel very confident about their ability to make an impact, just set up in the right environment, they can do
Mm-hmm.
this. And then they find very quickly, a lot of times, that because they're green, you'll have a manager that wants to micromanage and saying, hey, you just started, literally last week. Let's just calm down. Let me just tell you how things are, how to do it the way that we've been doing it, best practices. This is the way it's always been done. And it starts to stifle very quickly your initial enthusiasm and encouragement. Like, what about this? We should be thinking about this. And
Yep.
it's almost like there's this path to complacency sometimes where someone started off really strong, and I don't even know if it's really entitlement, but I think people think that because I got this job offer, you chose me, and you think I'm the best, and I'm going to do an amazing job, that I'm entitled to a chance to do this the way I
Mm.
think it makes the most sense. And again, it's about expectations versus how a lot of organizations typically will run. And I think in a lot of cases, a good reason why managers want to make sure that you understand, like, we've done it this way for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to listen to different ways of thinking about things. But let's a lot of times people will just think, let's just check the entitlement at the door, and let's just really think about how we want to do this in the best possible way, and where you have a chance to take advantage of all the learnings and all the people that have come before you, which got us to where we're at today, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a kind of give and take, right? Because entitlement, I guess, turned into a little bit of a negative word now. And I think it's because, like, I think drama sells, right? And drama gets clicks and things like that. So, kind of making entitlement and differences or talking about those differences, I think gets clicks, right? And we have a lot of differences. Everyone has differences, and I'm thinking more on the lines of like, let's just acknowledge that we have those differences, and where can we learn off of one another, right? It's funny, right? Like, where do we disagree, especially in like generational stuff? There's kind of things that I think about, like certain constraints, like we all need a salary, right? We all get paid at the end of the day. We all like want a nice culture, and we all want like work life balance, right? I think those are kind of things that are always there around us. But how do we all, when we kind of think about different generations, think about those three categories, right? Like, how do you see different people or people in different generations seeing, you know, things about pay, things about culture, things about work life balance, right? You've clearly seen a divide there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about the things that people are genuinely entitled to universally in every workplace organization. People are entitled to being treated with respect, dignity, compassion, empathy. The things where it gets trickier and murkier is when people have that sense of entitlement, where it's not always something that you should feel entitled to, which is, I want more decision making authority, I want more control or agency, or I want to change our team or organization goals, or I want to change my pay. These are things where there's a lot of different factors at play, and you might work really hard and think you might be entitled to a comfortable raise for next year, but there might be also realities that are beyond your manager's control and leadership's control that make it harder, and that's where entitlement does start to you get heads starting to butt around. Yes, you're right. You do deserve more, but there's not. The reality is, there's just not a lot we can do with this right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Kind of like that that entitlement or that mismatched understanding or perspective of entitlement is kind of like I feel that I'm entitled to it while someone else feels that I haven't done enough or earned that entitlement, right? It's funny, like we're talking about like salary and pay right now. Axios did a survey about Americans and what they consider to be minimum for financially successful, in quotes, financially successful. Uh, so people in generation of boomers said around $100,000 USD. Gen X reported around $212,000 that they would need annually to be financially successful. Millennials dropped down lower. And I'll give you a guess of what Gen Z said.
I couldn't even begin to guess what they would have said.
Gen Z came in at a whopping $587,000 per year to be financially successful, right? Kind of raising the average in that one. And this is that Axios survey. So it's just kind of just, we all create beliefs and expectations based on our experiences and how we got here. Things that we've seen, things that we've watched, things that we understand have created this belief system that at the end of the day we feel entitled to, right? Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. And it kind of goes back to my original question about, different generations having different senses of entitlement, what they might be
Mm-hmm.
entitled to. And yeah, I think that's very, that is really interesting.
Like, huh? But I mean, like, what are they looking at on like social media? Like, who's out there, right? Like, what is the influencer world saying to them, right? Like, they're just projecting a world that might not be real for them, creating a situation. Not nor. But like, even in the workplace, when you get into culture, there's like differences between like what different generations want, right? And there's a few of those that come up from when you kind of think about culture, like how work should be structured. Where I think older generations look for more structure, while younger, newer generations are looking for more flexibility. While older generations are okay or better with authoritative leadership, younger folks are a little bit more favor of collaborative leadership. While older folks are into long-term commitment within an organization, younger folks are looking for better opportunities and jumping ship, right? Those are even only a few of those.
Let me ask you this, Pinaki. You know, we're talking a lot about entitlement at the individual level, but I'm always curious about the dynamic between employer and employee. And do you feel like
Hmm. Yeah.
most of the time, the heavy part of the balance is on focusing on what does the organization need? What are we entitled to? Because we've offered you a job at this pay, and it's up to you if you want to agree to take it or not. But now we're entitled to have everything now focus on what we need and what we deserve because we are paying you competitively for
Hmm.
this thing that we're doing. And do you get the sense that it does over-index a little bit on a sense of entitlement for the organization, and then kind of discounting at the individual level what employees are entitled to?
Yes, I do. I think overall, I think, yeah, like the power struggle there probably goes into the organization because the organization has finance, the organization has more people behind them, the organization has a brand and a reputation that's behind them, right? So when you kind of think about entitlement in this scenario, like the organization, I think generally has more power than the individual employee, right? And it's varied for different companies and different employees. But I think generally, even like the beginnings of the world of work, that's how it started. Like we worked for kings and monarchs and things like that. They were always in a place of greater power than the individual.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what's at play, right? Because I think
Hmm.
more traditional corporate cultures, things are set up to orbit around what the company feels like it's entitled to as part of this relationship. And it's that adage of like, if this is not something that you want for yourself, which is all the things that we want, then maybe this isn't the right place for you. And I think there's a missing sense that the employer and employee relationship should be looked at more as a symbiotic relationship where
Yeah.
you're entitled to things as well. We want to be able to play a meaningful role in shaping all the things that we can do to support you being the best version of you. That's our side of the house, what we can commit to you as an employee, as being part of this, helping you grow your career, helping you find the work that we're asking you to do, finding it to be rewarding, not just monetarily, but also something that fills your cup. And we're going to work together as a partnership. And I think that those types of organizations are the ones where they're doing some really interesting things in creating a much stronger culture, much stronger levels of trust, and stronger engagement levels with employees versus the ones that kind of sit back in their chair, arms crossed, top down, like we hired you, we're entitled to get a fair amount of output from you for the amount of money that we're paying you.
Yeah, I agree that it's we should be there. I don't know if everyone is there and things like that, because right, like that's where like even like unions and things like that have come into play, kind of to speak on behalf of a mass audience of employees and things like that. Because I think just the pressures of organization and quite frankly, just the greed that's in a more capitalist or beyond capitalist society is that which will put pressure on the individuals to push them beyond the normal um, to I think treat them not as humans but as a resource to kind of siphon revenue from or siphon something out of in that way. So I think there is a should be of equalizing that entitlement, equalizing that power between organization and individual. It's a fascinating thing you brought up. I didn't think we were going to talk about that here, but I think em- I think employers have the power and they've had the power, but I think employees have the ability to have power by speaking up, by making moves. Like I always said that, like, you know what, if you want to, I've noticed this, like, if you fire someone, I think I've seen that you've noticed that an increased productivity with everyone around them because they're like, holy crap, like I don't want to go next. But if someone leaves, I've noticed there's an increased productivity on the employer side, like, holy crap, like we need to do something. Why are people leaving? Why is this person leaving? Right. So there is a feedback mechanism that we can give to each other, and there is a voice that we have to change it. And I guess that's what we're here for, Chris, to give everybody a voice to fight the system.
Yeah, ultimately, when you think about just something like entitlement, it is a very human. It's a very human feature of who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that all of us, on to different degrees, if you work really hard, you feel like you're entitled to like a promotion or a raise or things like
Yeah.
that, and it makes a ton of sense, right? It's like you said before, it's connected with expectations. Why would I work harder unless I knew that there was something in it for me as well? And so it's that carrot that gets dangled in front of you. That carrot
Yeah.
is that sense of entitlement, which is I worked really, really hard. I worked my butt off last year and I did all these things. Now, naturally, of course, it comes with a sense of entitlement. And that's something that organizations should be open to embracing, is that you are entitled to this because you did do amazing work. And we're so grateful for that. And we're gonna try to make something happen here.
It's true. It's the mismatch part that gets problematic. Like right now, I've met a few people, young folks, good, smart people who've just kind of graduated college, and like the market is so kind of the job market is so much in flux right now that you have like senior people taking lower position jobs, which kind of makes people fresh out of college just SOL at the moment, right? And it's kind of like, hey, we've been taught all our lives that we got to go to school, get good grades, go to college, graduate college, and after that, we're going to get a job because, we're educated folks and things like that. And that's just like, holy, that's just not the case at this very moment for the specific thing that you just studied. So that's a big mismatch. And then like, what people don't tell you is also really interesting because they don't really kind of talk about the work you have to do to get that job after college, right? It's like, people tell you, when you have kids, they tell you about like, well, you have to save up for college, but they don't say anything about how much daycare costs, which is really expensive too. So things like that is like the expectation of it all. It was funny. I was while kind of like researching this, I came across this this piece of like the Squarespace's CMO. Uh, she was kind of quoted saying out there that Gen Z job seekers should be willing to work for free, long hours, willing to do anything, and it was kind of like misconstrued, like in I think in the media, like I was saying, like entitlement. People like to talk about it because when she was saying willing to work for free, long hours, etc., she was saying it like if you have to be, if you're open and you don't have a job, you need to be willing to get any experience, to get long hours or to do something to just to stop yourself from being unemployable. Like just because you graduated, you don't have a job, you're looking, the market stinks, doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing anything or playing video games during that time, right? Because even in my career, the reason I joined Local Wisdom first was to get experience. There was no pay. It just gave us a place to get experience, and we ended up building something out of that. And then years later, even while launching Resource Hero, my second product, I'm working for like over a year after hours with my co-founder, Bill Kuehler, at a time when we had paid day jobs, right? So there is something around grit coming from inside you to kind of create momentum, right?
I think the idea of where the negative connotations of a sense of entitlement coming from. I like what you said earlier about how there's a mismatch in terms of your expectations and that creating a sense of entitlement where it's kind of like that person that starts very early in their career and they feel like they're entitled to X, Y, and Z because I'm bright, I worked really hard, and I in school, and I have all these things that I can bring to the table, and especially if they went to a really good school, like a well-known school. I think sometimes people have the idea that entitles them to bigger and more, interesting opportunities where, in the working environment, experience does matter. And, having a little bit of that wisdom that comes with working within teams and in different environments. I think there's so many important learnings that come from that as well. And so I think there's mismatches between people who have, I'm sure, lots of great confidence. I know when I was young in my career, I was extremely confident about who I thought I was, how smart I was, and what I thought I could do. And with that comes a sense of entitlement because I'm so confident about what I think I'm capable of. And it's important to understand that, that relationship between, what do you really bring to the table versus what can be offered? What is it that aligns properly with what you are entitled to, what you deserve, what kind of opportunities you deserve versus, on paper, what things look like.
It's so fascinating as human beings here, right? Because here, what you just kind of like surmise is, being a younger person kind of entering the workforce and your kind of naivety and just excitement made you confident in the workforce. And then, you know what, as you kind of gain experience and kind of learn from your mistakes, you're still confident after that, right? So you're like confident when you don't have experience and you're confident when you do have experience, which is a funny thing. And I think experience is a funny thing. And I think it goes both ways. Like, I think just because we're experienced at something doesn't make it the right or the best way to do it. It's like kind of funny, interesting story. Like we had salesperson joined Julia, right? This was a few years ago, and we have a process when we like submit an SOW or a proposal to clients. Like we send it over, and then we're like, hey, you know, let's schedule a meeting to talk about it and like go over it. This is what I do. What Julia did, I just noticed, is she was just like, I just saw she just sent an email. It was just like, hey, sign on the dotted line and we could go. And I was actually scared, right? And I said that before, but it really worked out. Like she got the deal really quickly, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm part of the problem. But I actually shared that story with a few other business owners in different times, and they were in the same situation, but they couldn't let go of their way of doing it, right? So I think even on the other side, the more experienced folks, we have to be open to let go and learn through trial and error, because we have to be open to try because we could be wrong. There could be a better way. Things could have changed, and things probably have, right?
Yeah, and I like that idea of letting go. I think there's a book by Mel Robbins called the Let Them Theory. I
That's
think is
right.
what it's called, right? And it's the same sort of idea. But you know, as we think about entitlement, I do feel like it is very strongly connected to these ideas of perception of what you think you're entitled to versus the reality, and finding some way to reconcile if there are differences, right? And that kind of will then start to take away from the negative connotations or the versions of entitlement that I think we tend to think about. But there's absolutely lots of scenarios where both the
Hmm.
organization as well as the employee genuinely deserve and are entitled to things. There's a relationship at play. So the relationship between employer and employee, because the employer continues to pay you good money for doing a very specific type of role. Of course, they're entitled to have you work hard and do what you can to the best of your ability to achieve your part of those goals. And conversely, I think the organizations should always recognize that there's a way to have your cake and eat it too. Understand what
Mm.
your
Yep.
employees do feel like they deserve and are entitled to. So even beyond the things I was talking about, respect, dignity, compassion, and empathy, obviously they're entitled to competitive compensation, pay. But on top of that, I think that's where the magic really happens, where organizations are giving things that go beyond entitlement, which is, we want to take care of your health. We want to invest in your mental health. We want to help you save for your retirement. And I think because it's standard across the board and every company does it, it's become a sense of entitlement as
Mm.
opposed to like a real reward or a benefit or a perk of working here. We're just doing it because everyone else is doing it, and we
Yeah.
don't really have a choice anymore. And I think too many organizations have let themselves treat it as a given, and now it's created a sense of entitlement because, well, every other organization does it, and you can't be the weird company that doesn't have a dental plan, because people do feel like they're entitled to it, because now it's the new benchmark.
It's it's so true, right? And like kind of companies have kind of grown to be like, what's the minimum thing that I could give to get the maximum out of everyone, right? And it's just the nature of probability and the way like companies are built up. So that's what we're trying to change because based on what you said, Chris, like one thing for sure is like I think disagreements is going to happen because we all are entitled to what we feel we are entitled to, and we're not always going to see eye to eye on that. But we have to face that difference with empathy and understanding, right? And open your mind in all different ways. We all need to have like a healthy dose of skepticism there, and we're gonna make mistakes throughout it all. Just we don't want to be, look, I was going to pull out the a-hole word again, about it. We refer to another episode that we have, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's going to happen at the end of the day, right? Even for young ones out there, right? We're going into a generation where you're about to lead this country, right? So we do need you to be strong. We do need you to be resilient. We do need you to be brave. because you have a heavy burden, and it's gonna be taking care of all of us old folks when you're out there. So we do have to push you, right, right, and stuff like that. And you know what? I'll just say this: we're sorry that we have to push you, you know, because I feel bad, but it is just, I guess, also the way, we've been raised, if you kind of think about it that way, because all of this is about giving empathy to each other, right?
Love it. I love it.
So yeah, so you know what? As we kind of close out this season, wow, like it's been this season, right? Like it's crazy that it's been so quick. But I want to, of course, thank the team at Local Wisdom, the amazing Brielle Saracini, the team at SBX, Vince, Taylor, Bill, uh, the Local Wisdom team over here, like all of their hard work, helps this podcast survive and exist, type of thing. So uh, give us a call. Check us out at localwisdom.com. My best favorite analogy for Local Wisdom is we're like the silly putty that spackles all the different holes in your comms team. So give us a call. We'll help you out. Check us out on LinkedIn on the Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work brand. If you feel the things that we're saying are good, positive things to emulate in the workforce, like us, share this stuff, send us your stories and feedback so we can talk about it and make that positive change, right? And with that, let's dip into our wisdom segment here, right? What's wisdom that feels so right? What's come up for you, Chris?
So, I mean, I mentioned that Mel Robbins book. She's also got, I think she's got a TED Talks or at least a YouTube video. But this idea of the let them theory that she champions, and I read it, and it's something that I think speaks to me on some level. But I know for a lot of people, um, letting go and just letting people find their way, I think is a really useful tool for a lot of leaders, especially people who are prone to micromanaging, where it's not always as as appreciated. I think one of the examples that she mentioned was her teenage kids getting ready for prom, and they had this idea to go to this restaurant for dinner, and um, she knew because they didn't make reservations and it's a very busy night. She was thinking, wait a second, you guys can't go there because you don't have reservations. It's gonna, and then she held herself back and she said, wait a second, why do I need to get involved? This is
Yeah,
going to be a learning for them, and let them find their way. Let them
yeah,
see what happens, and this is a better way to learn than if me as mom tells them, no, I'm going to tell you why that's wrong. I've already made a call to this restaurant. You can go here, that kind of thing. And I think for a lot of us, my wife and I talk about this all the time as we raise our kids, is uh, striking that fine balance between just kind of letting them make their
yeah.
mistakes and, discover for themselves versus we want to keep them out of harm's way. So there are
Mm.
things that we need to get more involved in.
Oh, I'm so behind that. Big fan of Mel Robbins. He takes such simple ideas and kind of interjects them in your mind in such powerful ways, including this one. But wholeheartedly agree with that statement, and letting it go. Like we have to keep them away from danger, yes, but we have to let them fail because failure is a better teacher than we are. And it's better for them to get upset at failure than it is for them to get upset at us. Right? Another book that comes to mind is Strong, Confident You by Kelsey Buchholz. Uh, it's a great read for, in particular, young folks, but in particular, young women entering the workforce, really to talk about workplace anxiety and how you can show up to work without actually attacking yourself on the inside. I also came across this interesting YouTube channel, How Money Works. It's a YouTube channel by Darren Soat, and he's I guess, investment banker turned into content creator. Darren Soat's credentials and he has credentials. He has accreditations, and he's very transparent about his experience as a financial educator. But and as I watch now, especially after our episode on influence. I double check facts and all of his stuff check out. And it's really interesting on kind of look at finance and corporations.
You just you made me think of one more book that
Ooh,
I think is really really great for those that might not have discovered it. So a friend of mine told me about this book called The Confidence Code, this is actually a book that's directed for women. It's by Kathiari and Claire Shipman. But it's a really interesting exploration of how women behave and kind of treat power. And it's got some really powerful ideas about different ways that women can really, make a mark that within organizations. And there's a version of it as well that's for teenagers. And so my daughter actually read it a couple of years back. And I think in a lot of ways it did change her life. Because I think one of the things that for women as well as men alike, I think that's important is understanding your own role in championing and advocating for yourself. Right. So if you do feel like, as we talk about entitlement, that you are entitled to certain things in the workplace or anywhere else for that matter, I do think it's important for all of us to think about different ways that we can advocate for ourselves.
absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, as we kind of getting to the conclusion of this episode and this actual season, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this. One of the things that I think about is really, I hope you all are able to find similarities and practice empathy. In a world where we're like, being pulled apart and to choose sides and go in different directions, by disagreeing, we only divide and, create further distance. But it's by finding agreements that we actually come together. So for people around you, find agreements with each other, even if it's small, and celebrate those agreements because we're all in this together and we're so much stronger as one human race. And so, right, think about what that person in front of you is really going through because that's what empathy is. It's imagining what it's like to be the other person. And right. Anything else you'd like to say, Chris, before we move out and say goodbye?
Nope, it's hard to follow that. That was very that was very moving, Pinaki. So amen to that for sure.
Thank you all, man. Yeah, seriously, we stay human at work by not letting work dehumanize us. So we hope
Love
this
it.
episode made you think differently, provoke some positive change. If you like this and would like to help us continue the movement, connect on LinkedIn, and about rating and reviewing and sharing things. Just do it. So thank you so much for listening. I'm sending you all good vibes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.